the street from the Cove gift shop, the La Jolla Cove gift shop. And when I'd have breaks, I used to run over across the street. And if I had enough time, you could jump off the cliff over there into this. You had to time it when the water would come in. And it took me quite a while to get the nerve up to do it. But I at least can say I did it. Guys used to jump off all the time. But there's a kind of a diving cliff right there by the Cove gift shop that I used to jump every once in a while. Pretty cool place.
We're looking forward to a trip back to San Diego for a little bit of R&R. We have an interest in the Hilton Vacations Club, which because we didn't use any of our points the last 2 years, we could end up staying in a 2-bedroom suite for about a month and a half.
That'll work.
Here we go. All right. I think he's ready.
La Jolla is a beautiful place.
Yeah. If you guys can hear us and Lowry's, we cannot hear you.
Is that better, Stu?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay.
We're going to go on mute.
Thank you. Operator error. I'm sorry. So welcome to the greatest Rotary Club in the world meeting on Earth Day. Our District 5300 is having its assembly this year online since everything in California is closed. So, and I would invite you all to go on the District 5300 website and register if you haven't. Any interest at all in listening to any of the sessions. They're all free. You don't have to travel. You don't have to get a hotel room. You don't have to drive to California. In the first 2 sessions of this year's assembly, our club's board of directors made up more than 10% of all of the people who attended those sessions. Our past president and current chair of Santa Claus gave the keynote presentation, and I know this is probably not kind to say, but he smoked everybody else. I mean, his presentation was spectacular. And yeah, I thought he was up there. But I thought after watching one other club struggle with their presentation, how strong our club is. Not only did Michael volunteer to do the presentation, but his immediate predecessor on Santa Claus, past President Jim Hunt, got in the on-deck circle, knowing that Michael was giving an exam at UNLV that night. And if the schedule ran late, he was going to have to leave. And so I just thought, if there was ever any question, which is the premier Rotary Club in District 5300 and the best Rotary Club in the world, we're it. So give yourselves and your board of directors and your past presidents a big round of applause. And with that, Nikki, would you like to deliver an invocation?
Good afternoon, everyone. Hi. Stu, I have to be sure. Can you hear me? Good, I see you. Good. Stu, his voice carries much farther than mine, like last time I gave the invocation, so I just want to be sure. All right. I subscribe to many various daily devotionals, inspirational messages that I receive and read every morning. Often when I read them, I go, that is Rotary. That exemplifies Rotary. But really, it exemplifies you, the great people who make up the greatest Rotary Club in the universe. So I'd like to share this one with you. living a life of grace. When we accept that we always exist in a state of grace, we are able to live our lives more graciously. Grace exists inside all of us and around us. It is our inner beauty that radiates outward, touching everyone we meet. It is that unseen hand that comes from the divine, raising us up when we most need it. To be able to live in a state of grace is not based on worthiness, nor is it earned through good deeds, ritual, or sacrifice. Rather, it is an unearned favor, freely bestowed and available to all, that is inherent to our birthright. All we must do is open our mind to its presence, and we will find and experience grace everywhere. Grace is in the rain, bringing relief to drought-ridden lands, and the unexpected lead for the perfect job opportunity that comes from a stranger. Grace is what happens to someone when they miraculously escape injury. It is even in simple events that happen that we call good luck, like when we don't get a parking ticket or a speeding ticket. Grace resides in the love between two people. The gift or check that comes unexpectedly in the mail, the cozy comforts that make up a home, and in the acts of forgiveness that we bestow upon others. It is grace that moves us to go out of our way to help a stranger. Grace is the state we are in when we are doing nothing but just being ourselves. When we accept that we always exist in a state of grace, we are able to live our lives more graciously. Knowing we are graced gives us hope, makes us more generous, and allows us to trust that we are taken care of, even when we are going through very difficult times. Grace is our benevolence of heart and our generosity of spirit. Grace is unconditional love and the beauty that is simply our humanity. When we know that we are blessed with grace, we can't help but want to live our lives in harmony. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. And particularly thank you for jumping in at the last second to do that on short notice. Thank you very much. Kurt, can you lead us in a patriotic song? And you can feel free to pull up something on the computer if you don't want to sing yourself.
We're honored to have our national anthem sung by the combined choirs of the United States Naval Academy, the United States Air Force Academy, the United States Military Academy at West Point, the United States Coast Guard Academy, and accompanied by the United States Army Herald Trumpets.
But so proudly we end, as the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the mufflers singing and gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, sing us that star-spangled banner yet wave, o'er the
Thank you, Kirk, and thank you for picking out a Super Bowl that two of our recent past presidents apparently were cheering in. I'm assuming, Jim, you were cheering for the Eagles?
You're talking to the wrong Jim, that's for sure.
All right. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, and please be seated. And thank you to everyone who helped out with today's meeting. Kathy, Sarah, Andrew, Bobbin, Tina, Kate, Susan, and our very own paparazzi, Jim Tucker. Thank you. Do we have any guests or visiting Rotarians today? Here we go. Here comes Bobbin.
I'm Tarby Bryant from the Green Valley Rotary Club and also the past president of the Santa Fe Rotary Club. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other guests? Guests of Rotarians? Yes? Oh.
Good afternoon. I'm pleased to introduce David Tulanian. He reached out to our website wanting to come to a meeting and is interested in membership. He's coming from California where he was a librarian. He also, a number of years ago, was also a writer out here. Was it for the Review Journal? For the Review Journal. So David Tulanian.
Thank you. And while I welcome everyone's enthusiasm, and I'm delighted that you're networking, could we keep it down while announcements are being made and people are introducing their guests? And if we can't, then Bobbin, as a sergeant at arms, I'm going to have to ask you to discipline those people. All right. Do we have any other guests of Rotarians or visiting Rotarians today? All right. And I don't see any on the screen either. So could we have a big round of applause for all the visiting Rotarians and guests? And up on the screen, I think I saw Marie Walsh. Marie, can you give us an update on Breakfast with Books?
There isn't an update right now. I have given you all the numbers. However, I would like to make mention that I had the pleasure of meeting one of our fellow Rotarians, one of the new Rotarians, John Williams, this past week, and he is involved with the Wheelchair Foundation. Now, the Wheelchair Foundation has decided to help our schools, and I'm so excited about it. John was going to donate 400 to 500 pair of socks to Beckley's children. A lot of Beckley's children cannot afford socks, so this is a wonderful thing. And then once a month, John is going to deliver a package which would have a whole dinner in it, which will include a chicken, a frozen chicken, and ham.
Marie, I think we've lost the connection.
I'm so happy to report this to everyone.
Thank you, Marie. And next, apropos of Earth Day, if you remember, we had a speaker a few weeks ago from Green Our Planet, and we determined to move forward with providing a hydroponic garden at one of our local elementary schools. And so past President Jim Cole, can you tell us a little more about where we stand on that?
President Richard and the fellow Rotarians, I'm super happy to report we touched base with Green Our Planet, and we asked them for a list of elementary schools where we could install a hydroponic garden, and one name just jumped off the list, and the board has agreed to do this. And so we're going to be installing a brand new hydroponic garden at the Wing and Lily Fong Elementary School.
Thank you. Thank you, Past President Jim. And for those of you who don't remember Wing Fong, every month when we sang Happy Birthday, he led the club. Rose, could you take Bobbin, could you take the microphone to Rose to tell us about the 25 Club activity?
Don't touch the mic. See, they're behind my hands, behind my back. I mean, okay, so we do have a location secured, and it's going to be at Bert Reiner's place. Is he here today? No, he's not here. Well, anyway, he's going to host us for the 25 Club meeting, mixer, fundraiser. So please RSVP and buy some tickets for the raffle because it's going towards the canned food drive. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Sorry, May the 6th.
President-elect Katie Crockett couldn't be here today, so she asked me to mention that we are making significant progress on our proposed partnership with the Las Vegas Concours d'Elegance car show, which we will be a sponsor of. And as we get more information, I will certainly pass it along, or Katie will pass it along. But she wanted me to kind of prime the pump a little bit and let you know that as part of our partnership with that organization, not only will we get a significant amount of money for our club projects as a result of that partnership, but we will be actually raising some of that money by selling tickets or buying tickets, by selling sponsorships or buying sponsorships, or selling luxury boxes or buying luxury boxes at the Las Vegas ballpark out in Summerlin, which is where the event will occur. I certainly can't describe it in any great detail to you, and Brian Sorrentino, who's also working on it, was not able to be here today, but I did print out a very, very preliminary set of event timelines and locations. And so if you're interested, I'll leave it up here on the table and you're welcome to take a look at it. We, I think, are going to be extremely happy that we were partnered up with Concours d'Elegance. And so sort of get that in your mind. We may actually have the opportunity to contribute an automobile to be auctioned off at the event. And so if you have a classic or a special or a one-of-a-kind vehicle that you don't want to necessarily sell, but want to contribute it for a tax deduction, you might keep that in mind, that that opportunity will be available. John, did you have any updates on the Wheelchair Foundation beyond what Marie already gave us?
We have 300 coming in next week. Yesterday, we had the A team. We cleaned out a hangar at Richard Harris Law Firm. Thank you, guys. And what else we got going? I know she got cut off up there, Marie, but we have 500 to 600 meals we're donating to the school. And we're going to try to make that every Friday, the first Friday of every month, and new socks all the time. So we're going to get the school rock and rolling. So.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, let's go right into the raffle drawing. So for the chance to pull a joker, the winning ticket is whoever is holding ticket 2349459. You're the winner. We have a consolation prize.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. And for the Lowry Bucks, I don't see Joan Murdoch here today, so the rest of you have a chance. And the winning ticket is actually one of the people on the Zoom screen. Oh, so Ginger, if you can turn your camera on. Ginger Anderson.
Working on it. Well, Richard, I'm trying to turn my video on, but it's not coming on. Oh, there it is. Hi, Richard.
And Ginger will get those to you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure. Well, with that, there are no more announcements, so you get to have a few minutes to enjoy your meal before the guest speaker.
Did anybody get the wheel emailed them to them this week? I didn't see it this week.
Didn't come.
No?
No.
Yeah, Kane.
Yeah, Sean's out of town.
The speaker is from the Institute of Games at UNLV. Going to play games today.
Okay.
I drive by that facility every so often, but I really don't know what the Institute of Game Technology does at UNLV. I know the building is also where the culinary school is, though, because we're going to hold an event there, and the professor who is the in charge of that culinary institute is resident there. They have a tasting room and they'll cater events there. Stan Fulton Building, that's what it is. Funny, I don't know how many other high-end educational universities have hospitality and culinary on their menu, but I know Boston University was one of them. We'd run into that when we were out there, and I think Cornell has also got a big school, and UNLV may be the third largest of that anywhere in the country. We do like to eat here.
Yeah, you used to be able to go to the culinary school during the middle of the day and get a 7-course meal for $15 back in the old days. Don't think they're doing that anymore.
Yeah.
And that included wine.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I know they're not. They weren't doing it during COVID. I'm not sure if they they stopped it before the virus hit. Maybe they'll bring it back. Served by
Our-
students, right? And they,
Students and then teachers are there grading them during the meal.
Our family of
Yeah.
Rotary, we did a few luncheons there, and it was beautiful and inexpensive. So
yeah, like the Las Vegas buffets of the old days. It's funny, the buffet thing that a lot of people remember back from my generation doesn't actually enhance the reputation of the city, though. I was on a meeting being held in a Zoom meeting being held in Boston by the Society of Motion Picture and TV Engineers, and the guys telling them I'm in Las Vegas, and they're teasing me about the $3 buffets of all the junk that you can eat, and that there's no good food out here. And I said, you haven't been out here recently. Every celebrity chef in the world has got a Mirror restaurant here. Maybe they'll open them back up again when it's all clear. That was before my time, but I guess they pretty much gave a ticket to the buffet away if you put $20 in a slot machine.
Yeah, the buffets are supposed to open up again on May 1st.
Is that the
That's the governor's
that's the
edict.
trigger? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not seeing publish the daily virus stuff in the newspapers like they have been. So I know they still have it online. We did go out to dinner last night, though. We went second time eating out at a restaurant. We went to the Americana restaurant, Desert Shores. It's on Lake Jacqueline. They have a nice terrace. We were outside, and everybody was far apart. But on a weekday night, the place was packed. Uh, I suspect even during normal times, they probably don't have that many people on a Wednesday night. It probably is like us. We're just so anxious to get out after being locked up for a year that people are pouring out and going to places they feel safe. They have a nice deal. They have a weekly special that has a salad, entree, and dessert, including unlimited wines that are paired with each course. And they vary it each week.
How'd you like the food?
What's that, Ginger?
How did you like the food?
Oh, the food is really good. I'm not sure how to kind of classify it. I guess it's in the category of high-end dining, but it's not like a Guy Savoy or one of those super hoity-toity places. But the service is really good. The place is beautiful. There's windows that look out over Lake Jacqueline during the sunset, and yeah, the menu is very varied, and not terribly expensive. I mean, this harvest special is $50 inclusive of everything. But they have a regular a la carte menu too. Normal kind of continental food. There's another restaurant there too, Marche Bacchus. That's I think it's mainly a wine store where you walk in the front, but then they have a patio in the back that also looks out over the same lake. And that's more of a French bistro, kind of slightly downscale, version. That they have a nice lunch and a dinner there too. We're not ready to go into a casino yet, though.
Stu, do you think Harriet would be ready for a Family of Rotary luncheon?
I think so. She she ventured out with me to the restaurant, and she went with a friend to Macy's at the Fashion Square Mall yesterday. So
Yeah, we're
these are
probably
like
gonna,
the three, yeah, the three emergent activities. I think she's slowly working her way back into some level of comfort here.
yeah, I think we're gonna do it the end of May to give a extra month of comfort.
Yeah, people are getting their feet wet. I think that's what's kind of happening now. They're just venturing out. But
Well, and at
Macy's
this
was a little
point,
iffy, she
anybody,
said, because
at this point, if anybody wants a vaccination, they can get it. So in a month from now, if they don't have it, it's by choice.
yeah, I think you hear a lot of discussion about that, about we're entering that period where the supply is greater than demand, and there's a lot of vaccine hesitancy. And there's some people who probably will never get it, but there's some that are on the fence. And when you have news break like the government has suspended the J&J, those people were kind of on the fence. Now all of a sudden they're even more hesitant. So not always good news that's been coming out from even though I hear people say that a lot of the medications that are on the market for years that people have known about have a much higher percentage of severe side effects. I want to look searching for the right word than the J&J vaccine. And so a lot of people are very critical that the government made a really bad mistake in suspending that vaccine, because it's kept people who might otherwise get it, especially the homeless and those who wouldn't reliably come back for a second shot. The J&J vaccine is their best hope of getting those people vaccinated. It's kind of hard to balance the risk versus the reward. I know that in this country, the FDA was badly stung by that incident years ago with litamide, the tranquilizer that caused birth defects. And ever since that happened, they've, I think, overreacted in terms of keeping medicines off the market, because just about everywhere else in the world, you'll find new medications that are actually very effective will become available for years before they're allowed to be used here in the U.S.
Ginger, are you in Vegas or in Havasu?
I'm in Havasu. Getting ready for a remodel here.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll be back probably next week back in Vegas.
While the remodeling's going on?
No, to get ready to move. We
Gonna
just
move to
down the
Havasu?
No, no, we bought another house in Vegas that's just about 1.5 miles from where we are now. It was our attempt to downsize. Yeah, I think 100 square feet.
That's something new.
Yeah, yeah. Single story. That was the big thing.
Well, I downsized 19 years ago when we moved here. I still have boxes I haven't unpacked from when we were in Texas.
Wow.
So how important can they be? In the meantime, I've got a single car garage and we have never been able to park one single car in the garage. Too much junk.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to seeing all the things that we've accumulated over the last 20 years in this house.
I think it probably is healthy to move every 2 years just to force you to sort through this stuff.
Well,
Yeah.
I get that. I've been in my house for 22 years, and when I first moved into it, I floored the attic. I don't even want to think about how much stuff I've got up there. I've got, thinking that you'll have it someday for the kids, their tricycle and their their crib and all this stuff that's up there. I'm going, oh my God. I don't even want to think about trying to weed that stuff out.
Yeah, we built a shed behind our home in Boston, and immediately filled it with stuff. And then I had to go in there because when my son brought his stuff back from school, we needed to put his stuff somewhere. So I went through the shed. I found stuff dating from 1969.
Bless you.
Oh, wow.
I was hoping that a few years ago, eBay, they had a store, but it was in Henderson, that you could take stuff to and they would put it on eBay and sell it for you for a commission, which I love that idea because I've got a lot of stuff that, I try to give away what I can to charity, but some of it has some value that I'd like to either get some use out of or sell it. But I'm just not that person that knows how or wants to put it on eBay and deal with all that stuff. I wish they would come back with something like that, a commission-based seller to take all your junk and get rid of it for you and give you what you can. That would be great.
Well, it's certainly pretty common with clothing. Those stores are still around. Secondhand resale stores where they take it on consignment.
Yeah.
And, you retain title to it till they sell it. You can take it back. But I haven't seen that for like general merchandise.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, like I have some like a crazy item I have that I'd love to sell. I won this thing about 15 years ago. The Rio Hotel and Casino had a giveaway, and it was a gigantic, like 5 foot high by 4 foot wide kegerator machine. Basically, it's got a wrap that you freeze and put a keg in. I've used it at a few Rotary events when we used to do the tailgate party, but it's on wheels. It's got a Super Bowl logo on the side. It's all gold. It's beautiful. It's got a 3 foot high CO2 tank in it, a jockey box on top. You put ice in, keeps the beer cold. But the only times I've really used it were for tailgate parties at Rotary years ago, and it's been sitting in my garage for 15 years. So that's got some value, that's got some real value, but finding the right buyer is the thing, right?
Well, you could always donate it and bring it in bring in a picture of it for an auction to see if somebody in the club wants to buy it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't mind that, but as long as it got a really good value. But too often you see stuff like that when we try to do that in our club, and it just, it's just not even close.
You get $100 for it.
Yeah,
not worth it.
Not worth it.
So I grew up in Philadelphia. I still have family there, and there is a store in downtown Philly, interesting business, where people will bring in something that they want to sell on eBay, and they will take photos of it. They'll prepare the listing for eBay. They'll post it for you, and you take it home. But if they sell it, they send you an email that has you print it out. It's got the label. So if it's sold, you get the label, you put it in a box, you put the label on, and you take it to UPS, and they take care of all the, I guess, call the promotion, merchandising, and listing. It's kind of a neat business. The photographs. Oh, and they'll also give you some advice on what the right price is based on other things that they know. So I would think there'd be more of those that would kind of pop up in different places for the very reason you mentioned, Jim.
eBay does so much of that themselves. I've sold a couple of things on eBay, and you usually can find something similar or the same thing that you're trying to sell, and all the information can populate, and it can be a 5-minute plus photos process. So that might be why those places that would do it for you might not get enough business.
Yeah, maybe so.
Getting pretty easy to do.
I guess it's not really illegitimate to use somebody else's photos as long as they're representative of the same thing you're selling.
No, you do have to put your own photos in. but
Oh,
the
okay.
description and, some of the marketing
Oh, I see.
can repopulate.
It's pretty amazing though to have a business like
I
that
have a whole
grow up.
box of things that I'm supposed to sell on eBay, but haven't gotten to it.
Yeah, I mean there are a bunch of places that on eBay that are essentially they're not just individuals selling things. They're basically a store where they maintain their own inventory of merchandise that they source from China or something like that, and they're selling. They identify themselves as an eBay store. I mean, they don't have any retail storefront. It's amazing the variety of stuff that's on there. When my son was doing some research in a university lab, they actually found a mass spectrometer that was offered for sale on eBay. It was about $25,000 that they ended up buying used. They even sell cars on it. They forgot to turn off the wireless mic there at Lowry's. I'm afraid if I mute it that they're not going to remember to turn us back on when they come back from lunch.
They only got a couple minutes to go anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, the Zoom interface is kind of weird. You can turn people off, but you can't turn them back on. They have to turn themselves on manually. It's pretty amazing though at how rapidly the improvement in some of these video teleconferencing and chat systems has got. I was on this call the other day. I think I mentioned it with a group that was meeting in Boston, and it's a Society of Motion Picture and TV Engineers, so they're heavily into all the different video techniques and technologies. But they had a plug-in for Zoom where it didn't put a different background in, but what it did is it blurred everything behind the person, so you could just see their face and discussion, but any clutter and stuff that you had in the room was not visible, and that was really neat because the machine I'm using will work with a green screen, but I have to dig out the green screen and put it behind me. I can't put a background in or change anything without having to go to the closet and deploy this thing. But by turning on this filter, you can just keep everything else in the room not visible to people. Plus, all the filters are pretty neat too, where you can take different kinds of graphics and you can overlay it. You can put a hat on yourself or a wig or some decoration around the screen. It's people are having a lot of fun.
I haven't figured out how to put the background on an iPad yet.
Yeah, I don't know if they support that. So they certainly support the backgrounds, with a desktop computer. Well, with a computer, but the computer itself has got to they check it to make sure it's got enough horsepower and memory. The laptop that I'm using now will only allow a background with a green screen. You can't, it can't do the normal depth map that you can use without a green screen. So I think the tablets are probably a little bit more limited even.
And where do you get the filters?
What's that?
How do you get filters?
I'm sorry, Ginger, I'm not understanding you. It's a, how do you get what?
Where do you get the filters?
The focus?
The
Filters.
filters. He's saying the filters, and I think, don't you, Stu, have to have the paid
Oh,
Zoom to get the filters?
yeah. So Zoom does have some of their own, but the most interesting ones are on Snapchat. So if you go to Snapchat, separate system, and you can pull all the filters down. And one of the things that Snapchat allows you to do is to create a virtual camera, so that when you go to Zoom, and Zoom will ask you like what camera you're using, you can select snapshot instead of the
Rotarians, good
webcam or
afternoon. It's my distinct pleasure today to introduce Dr. Bob Bernard, Interim Vice President for Economic Development at your University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and also Executive Director for the International Gaming Institute at UNLV and Professor in the College of Hospitality. Now, you can read about Bo, in the wheel, but one of the things that I'll tell you about Bo is that when you think of somebody who's passionate about Las Vegas, think of Bo. Not only is he fifth generation here, but Bo is somebody who lives and breathes everything that we do in Las Vegas. He's a passionate champion of economic development here, bringing new businesses in our community, as well as promoting the viability of our hospitality industry, which is very critical for all that we do here. So without further ado, let's hear from Bo Bernard.
Thank you. Can I go lounge lizard and pull this out? All right. Good afternoon, everyone. It's such an honor, and thank you, Kim, my esteemed colleague at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Far more important than any of those credentials, I am a Walter V. Long Leopard. I am a Kermit Booker Bobcat. I'm a Frank F. Garside Gladiator, and I'm a Bonanza Bengal. I'm a kid who was chasing lizards and throwing rocks out here in the desert here for years and years and years, and went off to college and came back and have been ever since. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, they need a camera on me. Okay. We're going to help our Zoom friends. Ever since I've come out to UNLV, I've been in a couple of different roles, as you heard, directing a place called the International Gaming Institute, which is the world's largest studying the gambling act all over the planet. In any given year, typically we're traveling to about, to 5-6 continents and bringing our work to the rest of the world. But I'd like to tell a story, per Kim's request today, that ends in an economic development story, but that starts very much in a UNLV classroom. Not only am I a proud graduate of the Clark County School District, virtually everybody in my family has been a teacher in the Clark County School District. And so the classroom's a pretty sacred place to me. And I like to tell you a story that starts in a classroom. When I was in college, I got to go to a place called Harvard University, which was a pretty crazy place for a kid from an overpacked 4,000 student, bursting at the seams, Bonanza High School to get to go. But I got to go there because I chased a stupid ball around better than most. And I was a baseball player there, and I got really lucky in that there were a lot of professors there that were really, really important. Just ask them, they'd tell you, right? All sorts of, a little bit of ego in the hallways of academe, Kim. Is that a fair way to put it, a diplomatic way to put it? So really important folks, right? And not the kinds that would really learn your name or care too much about your background, because after all, they were really important. But I had one teacher, one professor, who not only bothered to learn my name, he came to one of my games. And here was the way it worked. they announced the starting lineup, and then you ran out onto the field, and they announced your hometown and your high school. So they said, starting at second base, from Las Vegas, Nevada's Bonanza High School, which is a ridiculous name for a high school, but you don't learn that until you leave, and that's just a silly name for a high school. But so there's always snickers, right, in the audience. But and I ran out to my position. And then after the game, this professor who cared came up and he said, "Wow, you're from Las Vegas." Now, keep in mind, this is the early 90s, right? This is a time at which it was not normal to be from a city like Las Vegas. We were talking about this at lunch, how often we get confronted by folks who insist that there's no there, right? And then he said something that ended up impacting my entire life, because he said, "You should write a paper in my class about that." And I said, "Sure," right? Like, this will be an easy one, right? I see my own students doing this now, where they think through the easiest path to the easiest way forward. And that's what I was doing, right? I was coming up with a paper I could just literally do from memory. And he said, "But I want you to really bury yourself in it." And that paper then turned into an examination of Las Vegas, where I got to travel home and evaluate the impacts in social and economic and community terms of casinos in communities. Well, now, right about then, as you'll remember, if you've paid attention to sort of the casino growth, that was right when states around the country were starting to say, "Hey, we'd like some of these. We'd like the revenue that comes along with it, the jobs, the taxes, et cetera." And they needed to at least pay lip service to the idea that we want to examine the social and economic and community impacts of this, right? So they had to call me up, right? And they had to do the thing where they had these huge hearings and these huge sort of debates over what casinos were going to do, what they weren't going to do. And not because I had written anything brilliant, but because I was the only one that had really written much at the time, at least in a more or less academic setting. I started to get propped up all over the planet. And within 5 years, I had spoken on 6 continents. And I was somebody who couldn't have picked a passport out of a police lineup, if you asked me to, at Bonanza High School. If you could have put like a rabies certificate and like, my high school diploma and a US passport in that police lineup, I would have struggled, right? I didn't know anybody who'd been out of the country. And all of a sudden I was getting propped up to talk about my hometown and the way in which these casinos would bring a variety of different impacts. And the basic question that I was trying to answer, and still kind of trying to answer, was, what's that like, right? Do you ever get that when you introduce yourself and you say you're from Las Vegas? And they say, what's that like, right? That's become a research question. I never thought I was smart enough to be a professor, but when you have a cool question that animates your imagination and that becomes your research passion, I gotta tell you, it's easy and it's fun. Let me fast forward to a story that Kim asked me to share that builds on that foundation. So I became this person as director of the International Gaming Institute and other roles at the university who had to explain the impacts of gambling, right? And I also, in that role at the Gaming Institute, teach executive development programs. So if you want to become a CEO on the Strip or anywhere on the planet for that matter, you might go to our 10-day program in Lake Tahoe, where we have, again, sort of CEO boot camp. It's an executive development program that alumni from 60 different countries that lead casinos all over the world attend. And sometimes we have executive development programs literally a mile down the road at the Stan Fulton Building, International Gaming Institute building, which is on the corner of what used to be Swenson and Flamingo, now is University and Flamingo, but again, a mile down the road from here. And I walked in to an executive development class where there were a number of individuals from Las Vegas who wanted to be CEOs taking our UNLV class on how to be a CEO. And on that day, I don't know if you remember this was a few years back, Tony Romo, the quarterback then for the Dallas Cowboys, had been told that he was not going to be allowed to walk into the convention space at the Venetian and the Palazzo. Now, he was to appear at a convention that was like fantasy sports or card collecting. It wasn't a gambling convention, but the NFL had a very staunch, what part of no don't you understand stance towards Las Vegas. So remember that they wouldn't allow, we would have spent tons of money on Super Bowl commercials, for the What Happens Here station. And they wouldn't allow those commercials, even though those commercials, in the history of those commercials, have never shown a gambling act. I don't know if you're aware of that little trivia. But nevertheless, not allowed, right? And Tony Romo was told you can't go there because casino. So you use that as a teacher, right? You get up in front of a class and you try to use current events. And I said to the group in that room that day, if you really want to be a CEO, if you really want to lead in this industry, it's not like other industries where you just have to sort of be really, really good at the walls inward stuff. You have to be really, really good at running your store, right? You still have to do that. If you're running a casino hotel company, you have to be really good at the walls inward part, but you also have the added burden of having to be really, really good at the walls outward stuff, right? At the folks who are of a mind like the NFL was, that this is wrong and corrupt and in so many ways improper, right? And if you're to lead, you need to know these things. You at least need to be someone who's going to engage these kinds of debates over the years. And so a gentleman walked up to me during the first break and he introduced himself. And this is why you always talk up in class, because you never know what might happen. And he introduces himself. He says, "Hi, my name is Napoleon." It's an interesting name. It's Napoleon McCallum, the longtime running back for the Oakland Raiders. Prior to that, U.S. Naval Academy, Sports Illustrated cover. And I said, "Oh, yeah, I know who you are." And I started to put it all together. And he said, "Look, I got to tell you, every time I go back to alumni weekend with the Oakland Raiders, I tell Mark Davis, the owner, you got to move to Vegas, man. You're struggling with this Oakland casino or Coliseum deal. You're struggling trying to get work with their city council there. This has just been a nightmare for you. You should move to Las Vegas." And every time I tell him, he says, "Look, we tried that, man. We would love to do that. But every time we bring it up, the NFL says, what part of no don't you understand? The gambling, the gambling, the gambling." And Napoleon says something really interesting. He said, "I think I heard some answers to what gambling truly is," right? That's what our research is on, right? What are the impacts? What are the true scientifically measured impacts when you have gambling? That's what we do. And then he said, "Do you want to talk to Mark Davis?" And I said, "Sure," thinking that'll never happen, right? This happens when you get up and talk sometimes. People promise big things and they never materialize. So fast forward a couple weeks later, sure enough, they fly in top secret, right? Because if the NFL even finds out that they're even talking to Las Vegas, it sets all sorts of dominoes, in motion. And UNLV police actually circled my building, the International Gaming Institute, to make sure that, no paparazzi or anything like that were, and they didn't need to, but they were there. Paul Velez is our great police officer who took good care of us that day. And Mark Davis sits at the foot of the table and looks at me and he goes, "Bo, Napoleon tells me you got all the answers." And I think, oh dear, right? Lay this out. All these things the NFL are afraid of, lay this out. And so we did. We walked through all of the criticisms that the NFL had about gambling in Las Vegas over generations. And when I got done, and I said on each case, here's the evidence. Here's what the research suggests. Here's what we know about each of these things. And in the end, he said, "Could you put that in a big, fat, fancy report with a UNLV stamp on it?" And I said, "Sir, I am a professor. That's what I do, right? I am more than able to churn out big, fat reports, right? That's the exciting life that I lead. That I can do, the UNLV stamp." And then he goes, "You like steak?" It's appropriate, right? We're at Laurie's here. I said, "Yeah, but why, right?" He goes, "Well, here's the deal. There are 32 owners in the NFL, right? So there's 32 teams. To relocate a team, you need 3/4 of them to vote yes. There are a lot of steak dinner kinds of folks who own these shops or own these professional franchises. We're going to be having a lot of steak dinners because you got one vote, but we got to win at least 23 more." So fast forward to the Biltmore Hotel 3 marches ago now, I believe. It's amazing how fast this happened, right? And keep in mind, this was before the Golden Knights were here. This is before there was any real, this all happened so fast. And I was sitting outside the Biltmore Hotel because the grown-ups were inside debating the 32 owners at the NFL owners meeting at the very nice Biltmore Hotel in Scottsdale. And I was waiting outside in case there were questions or anything that the research could speak to. And I got a text on my phone. and it said the vote is in, yes, 31, no, 1. The Las Vegas Raiders have been voted into existence. Now, here's how crazy that story is. I say this to my students all the time, because what if Napoleon McCallum had been like I was, frankly, in class, and he decided that day to sit in the back because he was kind of convinced he didn't have anything to say, and he didn't volunteer that he had some knowledge that he thought applied to the teachers. Now, what if he was that guy? What if he was me? I was that kind of student, right? What if he didn't believe in himself enough to say, hey, I want to talk. I have something to say. I always tell my students, the magic is not all in the professor's brain and it just sort of gets downloaded in a unidirectional fashion into the student's brain. When this works, it's totally bidirectional, right? And that day, it very much was. So what if Napoleon didn't have the bravery to ask and inquire and to be curious? There's a stadium right back here, right over here, that perhaps wouldn't have existed. But let's trace that story even back further. What if a single professor didn't care about a single student that he convinced to answer the question, what's that like? What if that one teacher didn't go to his student's game and learn he was from Las Vegas and say, you should study this, which became a whole career, which led to a classroom where Napoleon McCallum was brave, right? What if one teacher didn't engage in one moment? So be kind and generous, because you never know, right, where that might play out. What we now have, among many other things, at the Las Vegas Raiders is, I would argue, one of the 10 most iconic brands from the Bay Area. Now, I don't know if you've been watching this, but everybody wants to attract the Bay Area companies to Austin, to Miami. Everybody wants to build the Silicon Valley of Topeka, right? Everybody wants to have, right? We got one of the 10 most famous brands, and on that list is, brands like Apple, right? The Oakland Raiders are a globally recognized brand that we got to uproot as a tax-paying California company and put down roots here in Las Vegas as a Las Vegas and Nevada tax-paying company. That stadium is a multi-billion-dollar stadium. The franchise itself has increased in value by billions of dollars. That, my friends, is an economic development story that starts in a classroom. So if you ever wonder whether a university can make a difference, if you ever wonder whether a teacher can make a difference, if you ever wonder how an educational enterprise like UNLV can contribute to economic development, there's one story for you. It's one that I'm partial to because I, lived it. But that's a story that I think reveals the way in which, and now especially in my new role, I've been in the vice presidency for 2 years. I'm sorry, for 3 months. I've been in the previous role for 2 years, and in a way that, again, I think is demonstrating hopefully the way in which Las Vegas can serve as a beacon for the rest of the world. Let me close with a story of what we're doing now. So a little bit of the yesterdays and a little bit of the todays, and let's talk about the tomorrows. So the project that I'm most excited about at UNLV, at least in the economic development side, is that we have completed the innovation ecosystem at UNLV. I was just telling my friends at the lunch table that we actually are opening up a UNLV office in the Hughes Center here. I don't know if I'm pointing in the right direction, but in the heart of the Hughes Center, where they're now building a park and a collaborative space and trying to create sort of more of a campus atmosphere, they decided they needed some energy. And so they reached out to UNLV and they said, one of the things that we could really use in this office park, which is home to lots of great law firms and accounting firms, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, is some student energy. And so they approached us, and what we've decided to build there is UNLV Inc. UNLV INC will be the official name of the building. All of our buildings, right, Kim, have a 3-letter designation so you can know where to go, right? On campus. INC will be the UNLV Hughes Incubator, which will be the place that a student that, for example, has won the engineering senior design contest and has invented something that she thinks will be transformative in the marketplace, can go live for free in a way that really kind of extends UNLV's relationship with that student. I mean, normally think about it. With a university, you graduate, you get your diploma, see ya. We'll be sending you nice messages whenever we want money, whenever Kim and the UNLV found it, right? This constitutes actually a rethinking of the relationship between student and university at a moment that the students need it, because if you haven't been paying attention, this isn't a year that massive corporations are showing up on college campuses armed with 500 jobs that they're just looking to pass out like they're dealing cards to the kids, right? This is a year where entrepreneurship has gone from option C to option A for a lot of these students, because they have to, right? And so they'll start at the UNLV incubator, and then they will head to the building where my offices are, in a place called the Harry Reid Research and Technology Park, which is a brand new facility. It is called that because Senator Reid in 2000, I believe, set aside through one of the early Lands acts, a parcel of land out at Sunset and Durango that was in the middle of nowhere at the time, right? And now it's easy. We just say we're right across from IKEA, and you all know what I'm talking about, right? But it's also in the midst of a burgeoning tech district. It's also in the middle of a growing hospital district. And if you've heard, we got a brand new medical school at UNLV. And what the Harry Reid Research and Technology Park does is what a whole lot of other research and technology parks do at other more longer standing universities around the country. Duke University is famous for its Research Triangle Park, which has become the place where all sorts of technology companies work very closely with the great things that go on at the university to co-create, co-innovate, and contribute to a diversifying economy. Well, guess what we need right now in Las Vegas, friends? A diversifying economy, right? If there ever was a lesson, and I'm the guy who runs the Gaming Institute, right? I'm the guy who defends this industry, right? In countries around the world. Never have we ever been made so aware of the need for diversification, quite like a moment where all the lights went off on the Las Vegas Strip this past year, right? And those tax dollars didn't follow into the state's coffers, right? And there are all sorts of ramifications there. Well, if ever there was a moment where we need a research and technology park, a place that takes the best things that happen on a university and opens up to the business community to collaborate and take advantage of the best things that happen in a business community and come together in a single space with hopes of innovating our way out. If there's one thing we're going to have to do, right, because we're not out of this yet, it's innovate our way out of this, right? And when you think about it, universities are special spaces, right? It's not like we have loads and loads of institutions in society that do what universities do. And one of the things we do is we've got tons of labs, right? We've got tons of innovation spaces. We have tons of faculty. Can I tell you, one of the things I was sharing at the table, we discovered on Maryland Parkway last year, at the very end of last year, right when the COVID vaccine news came out, so you might have missed it, room temperature superconducting, which the planet's scientists have been trying to figure out since 1913, when it was first posited that this was possible. Let me tell you what room temperature superconducting is, because I didn't know before I heard about it, before this happened. Room temperature superconducting means that at room temperature, you can send energy from point A to point B with no loss of energy or heat, right? So in other words, you can send it from this part of the computer to that part of the computer. You know, you've heard of semiconductors, right? Semiconductors lose heat, lose energy, right? When you send energy from one place to another, you lose heat. And the more fluid, the more efficient you get, the better, right? Well, in 2013, the Nobel Prize speech, so you've heard of that, right? The Nobel Prize winner said, there's a big holy grail out there in science left to be discovered that will transform everybody's life on the planet. And that is if we ever can achieve room temperature superconducting. Up to that point, it had been achievable at temperatures that are only found in outer space. Because of course, if it's really, really cold, you don't lose any heat, right? It sort of tampers the cool stuff off, right? This happened not with a UNLV professor as a co-author, as the 19th co-author. This happened in a laboratory on Maryland Parkway late last year, made the cover of Nature and the cover of Scientific American, made the cover of the New York Times, made the cover of the BBC. And it happened at your friendly local university, and it was achieved by a rebel. Let me tell you, as somebody who, I grew up going to UNLV, right? I learned how to swim in the pool. I learned how to play the trumpet in the Arts Center. I played the high school baseball championship on the baseball field. We weren't that kind of place not too long ago. And I love UNLV. I have like 20 degrees from UNLV in my family in total, right? We're now a place where these things happen in a way that we weren't capable of talking about just a short while ago. So this is, we hope, one of the things that can help transform the economy. Steve Sisolak spoke of this at length during the State of the State address, because what this just might allow us to do, and there's still meat left on this bone. He's achieved it in the lab. It has been celebrated the world over. He's getting applications from astrophysics graduates of Oxford who just want to come to the lab where the great holy grail of science was achieved. There's a lot of science left to make sure it's something that belongs in your laptop, in your telephone, in your Tesla, but it happened here. And it happened in a way that could, for example, take advantage of our robust sun that we feel here in Southern Nevada, and solar energy. One of the challenges, you can't really store it and you can't really send it. And you certainly can't send it long distances. So remember how Texas ran out of energy a little bit ago? A little energy grid problem in Texas a little bit ago, right? Imagine coating, say, the area between here and Tonopah with solar energy panels. And then when the lights go out in Texas, it sounds like a country song, doesn't it? It's like, when the lights went out in Texas, you can power all of Texas by sending it across a superconducting line with no loss of energy whatsoever. All the energy that you create is all of the energy that arrives in Austin and in Houston and in Dallas and in El Paso. That's what we're talking about being able to do. And there's one place in the planet that right now is able to do it. Ash Salamat, the brilliant scientist in our UNLV faculty that came up with this, is getting calls from everybody in the tech world, all of whom have been trying to pull this off for years. And he laughs when he listens to how they're going about it. And he says things like, because he's a cheeky British guy, they're nowhere near it. But here's the vigilant point. Google can spend their way to figuring it out, right? They can throw their billions and billions right at it. This lead that we have right now with the business field that the whole world needs, it's not like there's a place on the planet that doesn't need energy, right? Is not promised to us forever, right? It happened because of your local university, but it is not a birthright. It's not something that we'll have to enjoy forever. So part of our hope is that this legislature recognizes that, invests a little bit in this, but assuming that they do, and again, when the governor puts it in the State of the State, that's a pretty good sign when you have a majority legislature from his party, that things will go well during the legislative session. But assuming that happens, you could be telling folks years from now, gosh, I remember the first time I heard about that whole like energy revolution thing. It was Lowry's, right, that this happened. And once more, the thing that I would underscore is at your young, growing, but proud university on Maryland Parkway, that's precisely where it happened. So if you're ever interested in coming over to our campus, Kim and I can give you a really swell golf cart tour. And we can show you the spaceship-like laboratory where something happened that's never happened on planet Earth before, and in a way that Nobel Prize winners drool over as the quintessential scientific achievement. So thank you for listening to me. Thank you for your support of UNLV. And yes, I don't know where we go from here, kind sir. Sure, I'd be happy to. Now remember, speak up, because Napoleon spoke up, right? Yeah. Right behind you.
Speaking of Napoleon, does he get free steak dinners over at the stadium?
He should. He's one of the sweetest human beings on the planet, which is kind of amazing because he looks like this football player you could never ever tackle, right? But we should all buy him a drink.
And did you ever were you ever able to tell your professor that he was the impetus behind the Raiders coming to town?
That's an awesome question. I don't think I've ever been asked that. He passed away like right after I graduated. So no, and yet kind of a cool, I hope, legacy.
Now, if you guys could start working on how to make water out of sand, we're good.
We're on it.
And I volunteer for the tour.
All right, we're in. We're on it. Thank you.
Did I get a question
Thank
in
you
here?
very much. A very good speech. Is two questions. Is the NFL report that you put together, is that available to the public? Okay.
Yeah. If you just Google International Gaming Institute UNLV and go to the research section, it's in there.
Okay.
There's actually a really cute. Here's a better recommendation. Google ESPN Bo Bernhard Raiders, and the ESPN did a really cute story on it all. Napoleon has 4 daughters. I have 2 daughters. They concluded with the 6 daughters sort of looking up at the stadium and thinking, wow, daddies, right? But they also link to the report in there. So that's a better Google to get that report.
Awesome. The other question is, so this thing that we've created on Maryland Parkway, is it, so it's somewhat of a world treasure. Is it trademarked, patented?
Yes.
Is it a national?
Important question, yeah.
And what are you doing for security? And those are my things.
So yeah, really important questions, right? And there actually are fairly standard IP guidelines in place for things like this. There are patents associated with what he's done. There are protections in place and it's just like anything else. There is actually an association of technology managers in universities that establish sort of the guidelines for all university work, right? The famous one we were just talking about is Gatorade. Gatorade was invented in the chemistry department at the University of Florida so that the players would last longer against Alabama. And the University of Florida gets $12 million a year from Gatorade, right? So there actually is a fairly standard set of practices and protections in place that govern. Yeah, well, and that's one of the challenges. So when Ash talks to folks about exactly what's happened, again, I'll give you another quick story. When these technology companies call him and they say, how did you do this? We got a top secret team working on this for 15 years. And he says, well, I can't tell you that, of course. But how are you trying to do it? And they'll tell him. And that's when he says, yeah, they're nowhere near it. They're not doing it right. So, sure.
The superconductor thing they're doing at UNLV, that's all derived from Nikola Tesla's studies, right?
Yeah, and it's so funny, right? Because, of course, his namesake company, that is Tesla, is now a Northern Nevada company. But there's another company that Elon Musk has come up with, and you've probably heard of this one too, which is the SpaceX or company. Now, for him, because again, the scientist on Maryland Parkway in your hometown is taking calls from all of these people. The difference is, imagine again, the goal there is to go to Mars and then Jupiter, right? So a 20% increase in efficiency is a huge difference with a rocket ship, right? It means that super fast internet gets to your phone in a mini millisecond faster. But when you're talking about that, it is a much more expansive impact. And so that's also the kind of thing that could happen down the road that started in a lab at a school in Maryland Parkway. And schools are important for a lot of reasons, but I would argue that's a pretty cool one, right? So, thank you.
Well, thank you for that great presentation, Bob. We don't give away trinkets for you to put on your shelf and gather dust. Instead, we're going to fund a Share What You Can award to the USO in your name.
Oh, thank you so much. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, that's it for Earth Day. So go out and celebrate Earth Day. Meeting adjourned.
Goodbye, everybody.
Take
Bye,
care, everybody.
Zoomers. Have a great week.
See y'all. Take care.
Yeah, bye-bye.